traffic. Mom's fifth rant that day about Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt breaking up. Swallowing gum, and especially when Mom hears Dad say he's going to do it later. These were all things I just knew were bad as a kid. But why? I never fully understood. I swore I'd never cry over a celebrity breakup, until Taylor Swift and Joe Alwyn proved me wrong. Then, one day, I swallowed a piece of gum and prepared myself for the 7-year stomach sentence. But nothing happened. And I vowed to never make the same mistakes as Dad, falling subject to Mom's angry glares and mutters under the breath all day. Until I grew later, and suddenly, Dad and I were exchanging panicked looks as we told Mom together, "We'll do it later." And just like that, I started to realize that not everything I grew up believing was as bad as I thought, including perhaps the most forbidden thing of all in our God-loving, religion-centered household: atheism. That realization unfolded slowly, a thread loosening in the fabric of what I'd been taught. For most of my life, religion wasn't a choice. It was a given, like habits I'd inherited from my parents. My mom's shopping habit, for one, turning our house into a revolving door of Amazon deliveries. She'd sift through, returning most, of course, because boxes let you choose what fits. For me, though, religion arrived with no return label. Mine was Hinduism, delivered at birth. My earliest memories were shaped by rituals. Our family prayer room pulsed every night with glowing oil lamps and chants rising to gods with the belief that someone somewhere was listening. I grew up cradled in that sound, leaning deeply on that hum. And for the longest time, I never questioned it, until one day I did. At 12 years old, I was standing in our temple, staring at the gods carved into stone, when a quiet, unfamiliar thought entered my mind. What if this isn't real? The thought alone felt like a betrayal. But the moment it arrived, it refused to leave. I tried to push it away, tried to reason with myself. Of course God was real. Of course someone was listening. Right? I wasn't so sure. So when the uncertainty didn't fade, I did what any kid does with a secret. I hid it, nodding Hindu when asked, easing away from rituals when no one noticed. But then the pandemic hit, and suddenly faith, or at least the need for it, was everywhere. My brother and I started Apart But Not Alone, a mindfulness initiative that elevated to a global platform, reaching over 3,200 participants across 24 countries. Our workshops were rooted in Buddhist teachings: equanimity, compassion, the acceptance of suffering. And it led us to be under the training of the monks at the Dalai Lama Monastery in Dharamshala, India. I arrived at the monastery as an oddball atheist, grappling to fit the pieces. I was born into Hinduism, training under Buddhism, studying at a Catholic school, yet still an atheist. Who was I? In our first session, a monk asked me, "What anchors you?" We discussed suffering not as a divine wrath, but as a shared human struggle. The monk said to me, "Suffering is universal, and attachment causes suffering. The greatest attachment humans have is to their identity." And that hit me, because for the longest time, I was so attached to the idea that I had to be either religious or atheist that I never considered that there could be another way. For the first time, religion didn't feel like something I had to accept or reject. It was something I could borrow from, without needing to belong to it. When I returned back to my Catholic school, the prayers I had once ignored started to catch my attention. Not as religion, but instead as forms of self-reflection, growth, and hope, open to anyone, religious or not. That's when I came to understand faith neutrality. Not an affirmation to religion, but not a complete dismissal of it either. Instead, the freedom to move between them, choosing what fits. The idea that you can stand in a temple, a church, a monastery, not as a visitor, but instead as a participant of the shared human experience. That faith can be fluid, evolving, and mine to define. Yet I still hadn't said it out loud. One day, I was in a car ride back from school with my mom as she sang along to religious songs, when suddenly I blurted out, "I don't believe in God." I expected the car's roof to cave or the brakes to slam. But instead, she gently squeezed my hand and said, "That's your choice, your way. Honor ours, but feel free to walk yours." No thunder, no shame. I'd been bracing for a battle that she didn't fight, and that made me question, was it ever a battle in the first place? Her quiet grace shifted me. Religion wasn't a lock I had to break, it was a door I could open. And with that, I began to walk in a rooms of possibilities. I've moved through Hinduism's rhythm, Buddhism's pause, Catholicism's reach, and atheism's silence. Not to land, but to linger where they meet. Because faith is not about picking a side, it's knowing I never had to. Once I started to feel comfortable with my stance as an atheist, I in fact became closer to religion. Last summer, I attended a one-week Catholic youth retreat in South Lake Tahoe, mainly to have fun with my friends. But on the night of reconciliation, a shift occurred. As others stepped into confession, I stayed back, watching shadows move through silence. Tears fell around me, and voices broke open in ways I hadn't expected. In that stillness, I saw faith not as a religious belief, but as vulnerability, a thread running through us all, beyond names or creeds. That night carved a space in me, not to join, but to stand alongside, holding what stirred without claiming it. And that's where the true beauty of religion lies, in its power to unite us all. So often we think of faith as a religious concept, but at its core it is a universal language, one that transcends belief systems and instead speaks directly to the essence of what it means to be human. Faith isn't tied to God or a particular belief. Instead, it is the trust that we place in something greater than ourselves, something that connects us all. Whether that belief be in religion, in destiny, or simply in the idea that there is meaning amid life's chaos, faith can serve as a source of power and hope for everyone. And that's one of the most remarkable aspects about faith, that it speaks to us in different ways. For some, faith serves as a source of strength during times of crisis. For others, faith offers comfort and solace when we seek it, even in absurd situations. Just last week, my friend spent an hour sending relationship voice notes, seeking relationship advice. Not to a friend, not to a trusted person, but to her Snapchat AI. The AI, clearly over it, responded with, "I'm busy right now. Can we chat later?" Her, somehow pissing off AI, came to me for advice. And I, in a slightly nicer way, trying to get rid of her, said, "Just have some faith. Everything will work out." And while most of you in this room may lack the rare talent of provoking an AI to avoid you, or at least I hope so, I would still offer the same advice. Just have some faith. Because as an atheist immersed in religion, I have witnessed the transformative effects of faith firsthand. I've observed how religion, despite the fights and arguments of the day, brought our family together every evening to pray. In those moments, my faith in family was reinforced. I witnessed how religion was able to inspire monks to renounce worldly desires, deepening my faith in the pursuit of virtue. And I observed how religion was able to make people vulnerable and loving, which strengthened my faith in humanity. Time and time again, religion has renewed my faith in these ideals, which is why I have continued to engage with it, not because of adherence to any particular doctrine, but because I have been able to recognize religion's ability to connect us to faith and nourish us in the things that bring us together, the universal truths of life. In many ways, my journey with atheism mirrors an unresolvable breakup. Just like a persistent ex, religion found its way to keep me interested. But I didn't want to make a commitment to it again. Once I broke up with religion, I enjoyed the freedom of being able to explore different options without feeling tied to anything. For the longest time, atheism felt like a hard line. No faith, no belief in anything bigger. But over time, I've learned that atheism doesn't need to shut me out from finding a deeper sense of meaning. In fact, a recent study by the Pew Research Center shows that 23% of US atheists believe in a higher power. This statistic goes to reinforce the idea that belief is not a one-size-fits-all thing. Instead, as my mom said, religion is a choice, and everyone walks their own path with it. In many ways, my own journey with religion and atheism has given me a unique lens to observe the world. It's like a Buddhist saying I've come across. When a wise man points at the moon, the imbecile examines his finger. Religion, in this sense, is one of the many ways that we try to grasp the greater truths of life. But so often we get caught up in the rules, the rituals, the intricacies, the practices, that we forget what religion is actually trying to point us towards. We forget to ask ourselves, what's the real lesson here? And that's why faith is important, because it reminds us that the finger is nowhere near as important as what it points to. And there's no shame in searching for different ways to explore and access this message of faith, whether that be religion, nature, meditation, or simply driving with the windows down. We all find our paths to connect with something bigger than ourselves. The key isn't in the label that we place in it, but instead in how we ground ourselves in love and trust. For it is through this nourishment of faith, this care for what we believe in, that we truly begin to love in ways that transcend everything else. And perhaps, in doing so, we may just find that what unites us is far greater than what divides us. Thank you.